Welcome back to DUBBZI Bricks for another episode of Building the Tantive in Lego. In the last update, there was a comment left asking, could I show a video of the entire vessel with all of the sections connected together? So I thought I'd start the video off with that and also cover a couple of the thoughts I have about certain parts of the ship that I want to improve. So first of all, we have the cockpit section here, and this is one section that I really want to get completed sooner rather than later. It's such a daunting part of the ship, the shape that I need to achieve with this, and I keep putting parts of it off because of how difficult I know it's going to be, but I am going to tackle this in the next couple of weeks and fingers crossed get that all finished. Now the front section here finishes about there, and we've got to do the removable panel that goes on the side there, as well as do the bottom of it as well, and I'm just hoping that I have got all the Technic in the right place there now. We then have our second section, which is probably the most complete section of the vessel, and again there are parts I want to work on, such as the gun. I have ordered in some pieces from lego.com and the order has been dispatched, so hopefully they'll be here very soon. And I did make sure that I ordered 2 sets of everything, as I need to replicate the gun for the bottom. I still need to work out how I'm going to attach the gun to the bottom, as it's quite heavy and we obviously need it to stay in place, but I want to at the same time improve how these panels here are all connected together. Now here we have 2 of our 4 escape pods / cannons, and these I'm not sure how accurate they are, and I went by the image that's on screen now, which is from the cross-section book, and as you can see the cannons are quite long on here. However, when you look at the images in Star Wars A New Hope and also in the end of Rogue One, the guns don't look anywhere near that size, so I'm not sure how accurate these are just here, so I need to do a little bit of research into that, as I do want this to be as accurate as possible, and I do still need to change those out to the white curved slopes. Next up, we have the section that we destroyed in the last update and then rebuilt, and this is what we're going to be working on again in this update. Need to get the corridors put all back on here, and also get the rings put back around where the Stormtroopers and Vader board the Tantive. And then finally we have the massive engine section, and this really does hit home as to how big this vessel is going to be, and I just can't wait to get those final 4 engines all in the housing. I need to build the housing on there obviously, but that's really going to make this vessel look so big. And I mean, it looks big already, but adding those 4 engines on the top, it really is going to hit home how big this is going to be. And I'm so glad that they are removable, because I was trying to get this out the door is going to be really difficult when it comes to taking this to a convention. And I've still got to decide exactly how I'm going to go about covering the engines. Is this the design I'm going to go for? Mega expensive doing it this way. So it's just a case of, do I bite the bullet and go down that route and slowly but surely purchase the curved slopes I need for this to do it that way, or do I try and find a compromise using some normal tiles as well? Now stay tuned to the end of the video. There is a giveaway in this video where you get the chance to possibly see this vessel in person later on in the year. Now, before we start building in this update, I just wanted to explain the scaling of things for people. I have covered this in the past, but there are obviously a lot of new members to the channel, subscribers, etc. And somebody asked last week, how did I go about working things out, the actual scaling of it? So I started off by building this section here, which is the boarding area for Vader and the Stormtroopers. It's the corridor section. I then counted up how many studs wide it was. I measured this and then worked out how many studs each millimeter was, and I think it was something like 1.27 studs per millimeter. So every other section along here, every millimeter added up to 1.27 studs, and that is how I calculated it. Obviously some of these images are slightly different in size. I think this one up here is different to this one. It might be a little bit longer. So again, I just made sure that I again measured this part here, how many studs does each millimeter equate to, and then worked it out from there. So I hope that makes sense, but I thought I'd just cover that quickly for those of you that are new to the channel. So about 4 or 5 updates ago, Nick Brick 66 reached out to me in the comments and said he had a load of white bricks available. Would I like them? He'd colour swapped the slave one and he offered to send the parts through to me, or some parts through to me. So thank you very much, Nick Bricks. He sent them to a family member of mine in the UK as he lived there. It was going to be a lot cheaper on the postage. And I went over and saw my family last week for a holiday, so I was able to pick the parcel up. look at that. That is fantastic. A really good selection of pieces just for looking through on there. Yeah, this is going to come in so handy. All of the white plates, I'm so low on this sort of thing. So this is fantastic. The variety of pieces in here are going to come in so handy, from the standard bricks to Technic pieces. The plates, I'm always having to order plates and constantly running out. And there's so many interesting shapes here as well, which are going to be really useful for greebling, the engine sections, macaroni pieces. We have white tiles. More of the curved slopes. Again, it's yeah, really good selection here. Snot bricks again, they're going to come in massively handy. And lift arm. So thank you very much, MickBrick66. This is going to come in super handy with building the Tantive. Much appreciated. So as mentioned, this is the section that we're going to be working on in this update. The first job is to put the lights into the build. So I want to get this section here all lit up. We've got one Technic plate just here, which we're going to feed a light through. I've got a hole here for a 2x4 Technic plate to go in there as well. And then that's going to have another light going through. And I'm going to be using the warm white lights from DUBBZI, as I don't want to be too bright, as it's not that bright in the Star Wars A New Hope. So hopefully that one's going to work out perfectly. Now with the wires, I'm going to be feeding them all the way through these Technic bricks just here. And that's going to be perfect, as it's going to keep the wires all nice and tidy, which is something I really like doing with my mocks, so they don't get pinched between any bricks. And then they'll be coming up at this section down here, and then I'll be able to attach the lights for the corridors that are on the section above this. They can all be connected together, so that should work out absolutely perfectly. Once I've done that, we'll be turning our attention to this Technic structure over here. Now there's loads of strength in this top part here, and we've got support beams going down. We've got some of the inverted slopes here, which is going to stop that from moving. However, this bottom brick here does pop off, so we need to get the strength into that, keep it all compressed together. Now at this point here, I can't just run a lift arm from here going up, as it will hit these black bricks. So what I need to do is just add another Technic brick along the edge, then the lift arm will connect to these bricks, and we'll have all of the strength that we need in that section. Once I've done that, I can then plate off this whole area here, and that'll be ready for the corridors to go back on. And fingers crossed, all of the corridor pieces are in this box. I tried to keep everything as tidy as possible, which is unusual for me, last time out, and put all the parts in there that I think was part of the corridors, basically. Over here, we've already got our lights out, our connector cables, connector boards. So again, hopefully that's all we're going to need for this part of the build. So without further ado, let's get that part of the build all sorted. And there we have the corridors all back in place, and it's nice to see this back to the state that it was before we started the destruction. You may notice in the video that I built the walls up and then took them back down again and started putting Technic bricks in. That is just so I can have some lights behind these red plates which have got the grills on. Because these aren't trans red plates, it doesn't glow too much, and it's just the right amount of colour coming through the wall. So I want to have that on any section where there was a red plate. I think the only place I haven't done it is on this one just here, and I probably will actually change that one over, I think. But yeah, we'll have a think about that. Now, this corridor section here is shorter than it previously was. Reason being, the previous setup, this corridor here was so much further over because we had the other corridor here, the one that's now down there. So I'm not too concerned about it. There's going to be a roof section on here. I'm not going to have a removable panel on here. You're only going to see this corridor through this view just here. And this is another good thing with this part of the build. This part here for me is a little bit too narrow. I would have liked that to be a little bit wider. And I think the way I could have gone about it was continue this wall along here, continue that one along there, and then done the 45-degree angle. I could still do it. However, I don't know if it's really worthwhile doing it. When you stand back here, it looks absolutely fine. And the same as if you're trying to peer through that way, again, it's fine. So yeah, I think I will just leave that as it is. But what we're going to do now is have a good look for our collection, try and find out as many dark bluish grey tiles as possible to get these floors all tiled off. We need to put plenty of jumper plates on here for the fleet troopers and the stormtroopers, and the same again down here. We need to have some stormtroopers just stood to attention either side. Then we're going to have the fader so it goes back to us. And then we'll have some fleet troopers that are shot and on the floor. So that's the plans at the moment. Once I've done that, I want to try and get the roof section on and get the lights on that part as well. But I do need to find out a whole load of white pieces to enable me to do that. So anyway, without further ado, let's get to sorting through the Lego and see what tiles we have in our collection. And there we have the corridor all tiled off, and we've even put a few minifigures in there. I need to find out my stormtroopers. I have a whole pick-a-brick cup full of them, and I don't know what I've done with them, and also where my other Vader is. So I just need to work out where they are, and then we can add those all to it. And over here, again, we've got some more stormtroopers, and they're just having the battle there with the fleet troopers. And it's going to look so much better once I add the additional stormtroopers. As you can see, there are some studs all the way down there, so we've got plenty of room to put more minifigures in there. Now, in the time lapse there, you may have noticed that I did strip the back of the wall off again and add a few more Technic bricks to feed the wires through, and that's just to keep everything nice and tidy. And I just find it so much better that way. You don't risk catching a wire and breaking the lights. Now, what we're going to do is work on the panel that's going to be going along here. I started putting some tiles here just to rest the panel on. And what I'm going to do is, it's not going to be a removable panel. It's not actually going to be fixed in place, but it's not also going to be removable, because I'm going to actually build over the top of it eventually. So let's get that panel all made up, and then I'll check back in once I've done so. And there we have the roof section all on there. And I love the lights or the windows that I've used on the top there to give the light effect. And I've got the bulbs all in place on here, and I've used the 1x1 studs to keep the wires in place without pinching the wires, as I like to do. And as I mentioned before, I will be building over the top of this. Now, it did take a while to make sure these snot bricks just here were in line with the studs on the side. However, due to the dimensions of a brick, it's not going to work out, as 2 bricks or 2 studs in width equate to 1 brick and 2 plates in height. So I'm in a half plate difference here, which is, if you just see here, there is a little bit of a lip there. So if I put a tile on top, we'd be half a plate too high on the tile. So these studs here, I wouldn't be able to connect to anything. So it should all work out. I'm going to be plating over the top of this eventually, but there will be just a very small gap between the plate that goes across and this lip at the front here. Just going to be by half a plate. But yeah, these things happen when you're building with Lego. I could get around it quite easily on the front section, filling the gap in here. I could put a bracket piece over, because they're half a plate thick, and that will just work out perfectly. So I might actually do that, because it'll be additional connection points on the front section just there. But again, here we have the wires for the lights being all kept in place, and everything is all connected up to this part here. And looking down in the corridor there, really pleased with the amount of light that's shining through. It is a shame that you can see the bulbs through the glass section, but I don't think there's any way of getting around that. I think the only way I get away from it is if I actually put the plain white panels on, but they didn't give enough light through. So yeah, we're just gonna have to have a think about that. Over here, you get a better look of the red shining through, or the light shining through the red plates. I'm really happy with the look of that. It has come out really well. So yeah, all in all, I'm really happy with the top section. The lower section, there's not quite as much light come through as I would have ideally liked. So I'm just going to have a think about whether or not I push the lights through a little bit more. At the moment, they're quite high up in the Technic plate, so I could bring it through a little bit. It's not going to be a massive job to do. All I need to do is peel off some of the tiles and the plates, push the light through that little bit more, and then that'll be it. Job done. Now, I do need to make the other panel that goes across the top of here. However, I've only got one more of these panels in my inventory just here. It's quite a nice, it's got a nice effect to it, which dulls the light a little bit, and it just works perfectly for the corridors. So I am going to need to order in a few more of those. And I also need to purchase some more white bricks, as I'm pretty much out of it. And I know that I'm going to need not too many more for this entire build. Over on this section here, a lot of it is actually snot brick. We're using the snot technique and paneling it, so we're using a lot of plates. So I don't think I'm actually going to need to buy that many more white bricks. I probably will for the engine mount, but I'm going to hold fire on buying the ones for those until I know that that is definitely the design that we're going to be going for. Now, in regards to the cylinder bit that goes around this, previously I have been using hinge pieces, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use those after all, as it's going to be very much a straight-edged effect all the way around. I'm really liking this effect I've got on here. Now, these are 25 cents each, so would need a lot of those to complete the build. So I am just wondering whether to experiment with these here. Now, I've obviously got the pieces down here which we are using on the engine for a prototype, so I could just borrow those, get that bit done, and I could possibly do both sides of this, and then we just order in some more for the engines once we finalize the engine design that we're using. But yeah, really happy with how this is all coming together. I'm so glad that I've spent the last couple of weeks destroying this section and redoing it, as it just looks 1,000 times better in my opinion. But yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there is a giveaway and the chance to see this build in person. Now, BrickCon in Dublin is coming up in a few months' time, the end of September. It's the 26th and 27th, where I will be taking the Tantive along to display it. Now, I know a lot of people will be there thinking, you're taking it to display it in this state. Rest assured, I'm pretty confident that we'll have it finished. If not finished, it will be very close to being finished by then. I've looked at each section, thought that's going to take X amount of time, this will take this long, and so on. And yeah, I think we'll get it ready for then. It'll certainly be worth seeing at that stage anyway, even if it's not completed. Now, BrickCon are providing me with a group ticket to give away on the channel here. So it's free to enter. All you need to do is just add a comment in the video saying something along the lines of, enter me in the draw, please. Now, bear in mind, though, this is in Ireland and it is for the tickets only. So if you are entering the draw from overseas, bear in mind you will have to pay to get to Ireland and your accommodation, etc. yourself. But yeah, it'd be great to come along. It is a group ticket, so that is for 4 people. It can be 4 adults, 2 children, any combination, it doesn't matter. So yeah, if it's something of interest here, please pop your name in the comments with a statement saying enter me in the draw. Anyway, that's all we have time for. Just want to say a massive thank you to Gamer Bricks for sending the lights through to me. It is much appreciated, your continued support of the channel. If you haven't already used Gamer Bricks, I'd highly recommend checking out their website. I will leave a link in the description of the video. And if you use the code DUBBZI or the affiliate link, you will get 25% off your video. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you're watching on your mobile, if you could hit the hype button, that'd be fantastic, because it really does help others to discover the channel. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody else you think would be interested in building the Tantive in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, again, it'd be much appreciated. Hey, thanks for walking by. Till the next time, bye for now.